Hi everyone, this is Samantha from the Dancing Soap Dish, and today I'm bringing you these Rock Garden Mosaic soap bars. So I'll just explain what inspired these. I saw some photos of Pinterest of people who'd done mosaics on top of smooth black river rocks that they'd found in their garden, just like these sort of rocks that I have around here. And I just thought it was such a beautiful effect. I wanted to try the same sort of idea, but with soap. So that's why I've picked these sort of smooth oval shaped bars. I've done them black, like they're black rock, and I've actually grouted them in with black soap as well, my beautiful mosaic tiles, and made these lovely sort of garden inspired designs. So here we have a butterfly, I have caterpillar, a bee with some honeycomb, and a dragonfly with a couple of little flowers as well. This is the June installment of my Mosaic Soap Challenge, where I come up with a new and unique Mosaic Soap Challenge every month for the whole of this year. So we're going to get started making these. Like I said, I've picked an oval shaped mold just to make it look like a nice smooth river rock. I'm going to be using a clear melt and pour soap base, black mica, and what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to weigh out all the black soap I'm going to need, so for the base bars and also for the grout. So I'm weighing out 280 grams of soap base, which is just under 10 ounces if you're using Imperial. Yeah, just use 10 ounces if you're going for Imperial. And I'm going to, this is my son's helping me out. That's my son's little hand stirring the soap there very carefully while I mix in, this is a combination of the mica and the fragrance oil that I'm using. And we're just going to stir that up. Then I'm going to weigh out 4 equal size bars and then put aside the rest of the soap that I'll have left over to use as my grout later on. And the reason that I'm going to do that is just so that the colour and scent of the grout matches the colour and scent of the base bar. I've got my trusty isopropyl alcohol on hand, and I've just set my soap mould on a tray, also on top of my kitchen scales, where I can weigh out 55 grams into each cavity and just clear it back to 0 in between doing each one. And I'm going to do all 4 cavities for 4 55-gram soap bars. 55 grams is close to 2 ounces of soap. So again, if you're using Imperial, just weigh out 4 2-ounce soap bars. I'm spraying them with alcohol once I've poured them, just to get rid of the bubbles. There we go. And I'm going to use this paper cup to store the excess soap in. I'm going to let it set in the cup, and then once it's set, I can cut the cup open and take the soap out, cut it up again, remelt it, and use it as my mosaic tile grout. While my base bars are setting, I'm going to make myself some mosaic soap tiles. So again, I'm using these mosaic tile silicone molds. I'm weighing out about 20 grams of soap at a time in this little measuring cup that I've got here. It's actually for baristas, it's for weighing out milk, but it's really handy, and you can also see how accurately I can pour into these tiny little tile cavities with the pouring spout. So absolutely recommend these, they're really helpful. I made myself some purple and some black. The black was supposed to be for the bee, but it was too close to the background black, so I ended up just going with the silver to do the black in the bee. I've got some yellow and some gold for my honeycomb. I'm also making up some green. Always need green when you're working with garden themed projects. There we go. I am making up the soap and I'm pouring it into the 4 different shapes. So I'm making sure I've got a few of the hexagonal shapes, the triangle shapes, the square shapes, and the circle shapes, just so that I'll have a range of colours and shapes to work with when I put my mosaics together. Lastly, I'm going to do some blue. Just making sure I've got all the different shapes. Yep, there we go. So half an hour after I've poured the last one, I am now taking all the mosaic tiles out of the mold. I'm doing my best to try and keep them in full slabs, try and keep them together, because you'll see later that's I've done that on purpose for a special reason. So here they are, all the colors and the shapes laid out. My base bars are now set, so I'm going to bring them over and I'm going to start to assemble my mosaic tiles on top of the base bars. You need a breadboard and a sharp straight edge knife just to cut up the tiles, because you will need to cut up some of the tiles. Just getting myself organized here. Popping all this out of the way, making sure that, yeah, I've got everything that I need. So it's a pretty simple process. Where you can, try and keep your tiles together. So for example, those two circular purple tiles I'm using in my dragonfly, and I actually kept them attached. It just means that they won't float away and move so much when you're pouring your grout. That is an issue, having the tiles move when you pour the other soap on top of them. So try and keep as much of it together if you can. Here I'm using some hexagonal tiles, and I'm actually cutting out the center and straightening them all out and making this little yellow ring for the butterfly out of one whole piece, and just placing a purple circle in the center of it. Here I am doing my bee, which is just using the silver and the yellow. I tried a few different options for the wings, but then I settled on a triangle and a half hexagon. See how with these hexagonal tiles that I'm using for the honeycomb, I've kept the whole slab together and I'm just cutting it to size to fit inside the oval. That's the easiest thing to do, and it also makes sure that the gaps in between the tiles stays even. It just makes your mosaic look a lot neater. Now I am working on these little flowers. So these little flowers I made by cutting a circular tile in half and then cutting another half into a quarter, turning the quarters around to make sort of like a little blossom shape, which I think they're really cute. And I'll also point out with the caterpillar how the two circles that are supposed to be touching the ground are actually the truncated circles from the mosaic mold. So it just looks like that's the part of his body that's sitting flat on the ground. I toyed with putting him on a surface or putting him on, I was trying to go for a leaf, but it doesn't really look like a leaf. So I ended up changing it so that he was walking along the bottom of the soap, and then I put these little butterflies above him. So there we have it now. There's the basic mosaic shapes that I'm going to be using. I'm going to take some time out now just to position them properly and space them properly and make sure that I'm happy with them before I pour my grout. Here they are. I've made a couple of little changes. As you can see, I've flipped around the flowers and the dragonfly. And I also, the butterflies above the caterpillar, they were triangle tiles, and I just truncated the top off them because they were looking a little bit too much like bow ties to me. So I cut those off and I put them together. I think that's more of a butterfly shape now. So I'm really happy with that. Okay, here's the leftover soap that I poured into this paper cup. Like I said I was going to do, I am cutting the paper cup open and I'm just going to tear this block of soap out of the cup. As you can see, it comes out quite easily. There we go. And then I'll just be able to chop this soap up. I'm just going to cube it just like you normally would. Yes, it is coloured. Yes, it is scented, but it's only a small amount, and I'm just going to reheat it very carefully just the once. It should be fine to be reheated. There we go, just cutting it up here. Again, I'm going to be using this little glass measuring jug, this barista's measuring jug. The double pouring spout just makes it really perfect. You know, if you're left-handed or right-handed, you can pour either way, and because it's so small and because of the pouring spout, it really gives you the accuracy that you need to pour the grout around the soap tiles. So I'm just breaking up this black soap and I will melt it down very carefully. I've also poured myself a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and I have some Q-tips or some cotton swabs just resting in the alcohol. I'm spraying liberally lots and lots of alcohol on the surface of my soap, even before I melt the soap, just to make sure that I've got everything ready to go, because I do need to work quite fast. Spraying the alcohol on top of the mosaic tiles is really important. It needs quite a thick layer of alcohol, not because the soap needs to stick or anything, but because I don't want the soap to stick. I want the soap to sort of run off the surface of the mosaic tiles. I'm pouring the soap over the mosaic tiles because that's the best way to get the soap into the gaps in between the tiles. Then I'm taking my Q-tip and wiping off any excess soap that's sitting on top of the tiles, making sure that I don't also move the tiles while I'm doing this. See, there we go there. It's very easy to give them a shove, unfortunately, so be careful there. But this is easy to do, and this is working because of how much alcohol I'd sprayed onto the tiles before I started. So spray alcohol onto your tiles, then pour your soap, then use the alcohol on the end of the Q-tip to clean off the tiles if there's any black soap sitting on there. And that worked quite well. I'm going for my B now. I'm going to pour it around first, but then again I'm also going to pour it over the mosaic tiles. It's the best way to get that grout in between into the grout lines. There we go. Give it a good spray as well, and even just spraying it then was helping to remove some of that soap from the surface of the tiles. Just got my wooden skewer here, which is also handy for just nudging any tiles that have moved back into place. And again, I'll just give some of these tiles that have some of the black paint resting on them a quick wipe down with my alcohol soaked Q-tip just to clean it up. Don't get distracted, you still got to keep working fast. I've got 2 more to do and I don't want this soap to set. So another spray there. The caterpillar is quite easy. I'm just going to pour the soap around this one, not so much over it, because I don't really have any grout lines that it needs to go in between. It's sort of all the mosaic shapes are sort of separate. So I'll just make sure I pour this very carefully all the way around. Look at that fine stream that's coming out of this pouring cup. It really is super easy when you have the right tools. There we go. I'm happy with that. I'll give that a spray. Yep, and just also pre-wet my dragonfly again. I've only got a tiny bit of soap left, so I really hope I've got enough. I'm going to pour around the edge and then over the top here. It is starting to set just because I've got this last little bit. You know, I find that when you've got a really small amount in the jug, it sort of just sets almost instantaneously when it doesn't have the rest of the soap to sort of keep it warm. So there we go. I've used all of that soap there for my grout. Yep, give this one a spray. I've got a little bit, as you can see, of the black here, and see how easy it was just to wipe those black bits off. I'm going to reposition some of these tiles that have moved. And this bit here as well. There we go. And I think these are looking pretty good. That was quite easy. Sometimes I sort of really panic when you get to this stage because you've done so much work, and I think, oh, if you just ruin the grout, then you know you've wasted all that time. But that went really well. Make sure you take heed of my tips of spraying plenty of alcohol. I'll just also mention as well, it might take your soap, even though it's a very thin layer, it might take your soap a little bit of extra time to set, simply because of how much alcohol is in it. So give it a little bit of extra time. If it seems quite soft, don't panic. It will set eventually, but yeah, if it was really soaked with that alcohol, which is what you should be doing, it'll probably take longer to set than would be normal if it didn't have all that alcohol in it. Okay, I think I've cleaned these up as best as I can. There's no point sort of to keep poking them and prodding them, because you're only just going to end up wrecking them if you do that. So I'm going to walk away from these and let them set. And here we are. I've returned a little while later to demold them for you. I'm just going to loosen them up around the edges before I try and pop them out. Oh yeah, see that one came out very easily. They're a little bit slippery on the bottom because some of the alcohol obviously leaked down into the bottom underneath them. But the tops are pretty dry. There we go. This one's super slippery as well. But there we go. I have the caterpillar and the dragonfly. Here's the bee. There we go. These are looking pretty good, I think. I think they are similar to what I wanted, like when I set out, how I wanted them to look like big black rocks that had mosaic designs on them. And I think that works. There we go. We have the butterfly, the dragonfly, the bee, and the caterpillar. 4 very beautiful rock garden design mosaics. And here they are with some real rocks. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial for rock garden mosaic melt and pour soap bars. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what we do, and check out the Dancing Soap Dish website and our YouTube channel for lots more tutorials. Enjoy, guys. Thanks. Bye.